Okay, I'd like to open the meeting to the JTC meeting today. I'd like to read the chair, the accessibility. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon advance request. If you would like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Walden at 508-583-1833, extension 202. And also a notice of non-discrimination rights and protective to beneficiaries with regards to the federal Title VI non-discriminative protection and state non-discrimination protection is posted in the meeting room and available on the Old Colony Planning Council website. Please contact Mary Walden, 508-583-1833, extension 202 for more information. Thank you. Open the meeting, introductions. I'll call this meeting to order. My name is Dan Salvucci. I am chairman of the Board of Selectmen in the town of Whitman. Charlie, I guess you're going to go around.
Yeah, I'll go alphabetically by community. So first is Abington.
Sorry, Charlie. John Stone's here.
Okay, thank you, John.
Is here.
Thank you. Avon. Bridgewater. Brockton.
Brockton's here.
Duxbury. Easton.
Dave Field, Easton.
East Bridgewater. Kingston. Hanson.
Hanson's here.
Halifax. Plymouth. Pembroke. Plimpton. Stoughton.
Here.
West Bridgewater. And Whitman.
I'm here, of
Great,
course.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Yep.
All right, we are gonna.
Oh,
before
sorry,
we go to
Glenn Geiler, Brockton Area Transit Authority.
Okay, thank you.
And
we are
Meredith
gonna take-
Anderson for West Bridgewater. I believe I was on mute when I said I'm here.
Okay, great. Welcome, Eric.
Is there
Sorry.
anyone else? Is that it, Charlie?
Anybody from MassDOT?
Okay,
Ben Muller, MassDOT.
Welcome, Ben.
Hi, Barbara LaChance, District 5.
Hey, Barbara, welcome.
Thank you.
Mike Lambert, Brockton Area Transit.
Oh, Michael.
Laurel Pettisekins from the MBTA.
Hey, welcome.
Vivian Ortiz from the Massachusetts Safe Routes to School program.
Hey, welcome, Vivian.
Matthew Peterson from Transit Matters.
Matthew.
Ethan Finland, also from Transit Matters.
Welcome.
Mary Ellen DeFrias, Mass Development.
Welcome.
Dan Murphy, Ty and Bond.
Tina.
that sounds like it, Charlie.
Yep, sounds good. So I think we can-
Okay, all right, we are gonna take something out of order. We're gonna take 7A and B out of order before we go to public comments. So I'd like to go to 7A, MBTA forging ahead, proposed service changes. This is Laurel.
Hello, everyone.
Speak on this. Hello.
I could share my screen if people want to see the slides for the MBTA forging ahead process. They're also available on our website, and I'm going to assume that a lot of you have already seen them.
Yeah,
So
we'll go-
given the amount of time we have, I could do a quick overview, and then we could open up into questions if that's what makes the most sense.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay,
Well, then let me just talk through it then. Oh, you gave me share screen permissions. That's exciting. All right, is that working?
there you go. Yes.
All right. So forging ahead is what the MBTA has named our initiative to protect our essential services throughout this crisis and rebuild. And so it's a three-pronged approach. Mostly we'll talk about the service impacts today, but just want to remind everyone that first we started with internal cost-cutting measures, and then we did a temporary reallocation from our capital budget, and now we are looking at service reductions. And all of this is based, as I said, from a premise that we need to maintain a strong foundation off which we can rebuild. I'm sure everyone is aware, but the MBTA is not alone. This is a national crisis that is affecting public transit across the country. Other agencies are also looking at similar needs for service reductions. Quick reminder, our budget, our operating budget is, without counting debt, about $1.7 billion a year, of which the commuter rail and wages for our employees are the biggest items. Right now, obviously, we do not know what our budget will look like next year, but we're using projections, and our sort of most conservative estimate has a budget gap of about $580 million. And so we are trying to find solutions to fill that, even if we do not have to implement all of them. And we're, as I mentioned, have 3 different categories. And you can see on this pie chart, the biggest amount of the funding will come from the capital reallocation, followed by a mix of service reductions and internal savings. The other thing to note is we're using a 2-year budget process, so that any savings we can create in this fiscal year, we will then move that money into next year to address the shortfall we're projecting next year. Quick recap of our ridership. We have seen a significant drop off in ridership, and then it slowly, gradually come back, but it sort of leveled off the last month, and it started actually to trend downwards, as we presume we see due to the uptick in cases of COVID-19. I think the thing to note about this is that it's not been equal across the modes. Our bus, paratransit, the ride service, and the blue subway line have seen the most ridership throughout the course of the pandemic, with commuter rail and ferry at the bottom. In terms of our scenario planning, which we did with MassDOT, what we're looking at is that we expect ridership to come back different across the modes. And this is based on a combination of factors around the economy, vaccine timing, but also changes in travel patterns due to teleworking. So that we're thinking about that as we think about how to allocate service, but then also how to make sure that the network that we build back does serve the travel needs of the future. And so continuing to think about how we build off our bus network redesign and rail vision projects. I will really quickly just state that this is something we're seeking proposals on. It's going to be an iterative process. We'll make some decisions, but we will continue to monitor ridership and revenue and respond, and that most of the changes would go into effect next spring and summer. And then quickly, our essential service framework is prioritizing maintaining service at our baseline service levels in our service delivery policy for our services that we see both high ridership on, as well as they're serving transit critical populations, which includes low-income households, communities of color, and households with 0 to low vehicles. So we're currently in the public engagement strategy. We will bringing proposal to the board on Monday, and then I don't think there will be a vote until the following meeting on the 14th. So some time for some more feedback, and implementation, as I mentioned, will start in the spring and summer, depending on the mode. The earliest changes could be, though, on the commuter rail as early as January in a limited sense. So let me skip to what the actual proposals are, which is just a summary sort of by mode. We're preserving 85% of our bus service hours, 70% of our rapid transit hours, 65% of our commuter rail service hours, and proposing to temporarily suspend all ferry service. This allows us to preserve most of the service on which our current ridership during the pandemic is riding on. However, it will shrink our service area by a few percentage points in terms of people who have access to the MBTA within half a mile. There's a sort of blow up on this map for the the South Shore region, of which I know you all are part, have some coverage on. I don't think this map probably covers your entire area. But let me just skip to the mode level. So commuter rail, stopping service at 9 p.m. and on the weekends, except the Fairmont line, decreasing weekday trains from 505 trains to 430, which is maintaining 85% of our weekday service, closing 6 out of 141 stops. We don't have proposals yet for the line level of service because we want to wait to see how ridership returns across the lines, both which lines as well as what time of day, knowing we might want to like smooth out the peak and the off-peak service. Station closures, we are proposing to close the Plymouth station due to operational improvements that would give us, knowing that Kingston is an alternative, and I'm sure we'll have feedback on that. We have heard some feedback on that already, and then these other stations we're proposing to close due to very low ridership. And then, as I mentioned, on the ferry, we're proposing to suspend ferry service given the ability for people to use alternatives. On the bus, we are proposing to stop service after midnight, some service frequency reductions based on ridership, and consolidating, eliminating, and shortening some routes. And I'm happy to talk through details if the people have questions about individual routes. This will have a small impact on our ride service. So we're not proposing to change the coverage area for the ride, but just to some fares might shift for a very small number of trips into the higher fare category. And on rapid transit, stopping service after midnight instead of 1 a.m. and reducing frequency, but within our baseline standards, and stopping the E line of the Green Line at Brigham Circle, which is temporary closing 5 stops over the course of the last 0.8 of a mile. So that's what we're proposing. The idea is we're looking for feedback on, does this make sense? Is this the right definition of essential service? Are there things we should need to add back because it's really covering sort of critical trips? And then as we get more funding, how should we prioritize adding service back? Which leads us to sort of some clusters we've created just to help people give us feedback. For example, on commuter rail, is evening service more important than weekend service? Restoring the ferry service, adding frequency or adding span on bus and rapid transit, as well as sort of thinking about how we should be continuing to invest in our commuter rail vision and our rail vision and our bus network redesign. So our public comment period ends on Friday at 5 p.m. We have forms online and more information online, and also an email address where people can send us more comments. So that is the very quick version of the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Laurel. Does anybody have any questions for her? Okay, Laurel, I have a couple. Just to let you know, I'm on the MBTA advisory board.
Okay.
I know we've got a save the date sometime next week, I believe, the advisory board. I haven't heard back yet. But that being said, the biggest pushback I've seen so far is on the ferry boat.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they're very disappointed in that. I said, but they need to understand that if it's such low ridership, I mean, if there's other alternative ways that it's cost saving at this time of the date, it needs to be done. My question is, closing Plymouth at the Plymouth station, that's the one at the Cottage Park, right? Is that the Plymouth station? T station is the one is at the Cottage Park?
Yes.
The one that, yeah, in Plymouth.
Yeah, in Plymouth, yeah. That being said, aren't they building condos there? I think they took down the old market that was there, and they're building all sorts of condos. If in fact, down the line, if you find that there is a need, will that be put back and extended it from Kingston all the way to Plymouth?
Yeah, so we are, first off, decision hasn't been made to close it. We're still getting feedback on it. I think we are, one of the things we have done is looked at I think it's called Mass Builds database of the developments that are like in progress to see
Yes.
where there are developments in progress that are either near the stations that we're proposing to close or the bus routes that we're proposing to eliminate, to get a handle on that. So we have seen that and noted that, and definitely are in support of transit-oriented development. So definitely a factor in our decision making now, as well as in our decision making for in the future.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment on the Plymouth thing?
Yes.
Okay, hi. Bruce Hughes, retired OCPC. There was an article in the paper recently about that Plymouth project, and he talked about how they've done phase one of it, and they're supposed to build a whole bunch more of it, but now he's rethinking of it because, you know, that thing was built on the premise that there would be commuter rail there. And it was a Walmart that was on the site that was torn
Right.
down.
You're right.
But,
That's right.
but you know, that's been approved for an awful lot. And again, you can look up the article, but he is rethinking that. And, you know, I actually had a conversation with someone, you could comment on that. And I spoke to someone and commented and said that, you know, the weekend service and the ferries, you know, but the weekend service is very important. But I understood the, you know, the budget cutbacks and why they need to cut back the service. But there's a lot of people, you know, service people, nurses, doctors, people like that, security who work on weekends and they need to train. But anyway, so that's the deal with the Plymouth, as I understand it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Any other further questions for Laura?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there was a question asked in the chat box.
Okay.
It says it asks the MBTA is running out of CARE Acts money, ? How will the budget be paid when that runs out? Thank you.
Yeah, so the CARE Acts money that we got from the federal government is enough to get us through, essentially covered the losses we faced in FY20 at the end of FY20, and we're using it for FY21. And so this process is mostly focused on how we're going to balance our budget in FY22 when we no longer have CARES Act money.
I believe there's another question from WATD, Dave Cadero. You have a
I
question?
believe that was his question, sir.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
his
that
question.
is the question. But so the CARES Act's run out. So you're saying you're just going to look at the budget for the upcoming year and try to figure it out?
That is what we're doing right now. Yeah, so we've done the projections for what we think ridership and revenue could be in FY22. And that is why we're attempting using this 3 sort of categories of potential savings or money from the capital budget to fill the hole.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much.
I see Mike
Mr. Chair,
Lambert has his hand raised.
Thanks, Charlie. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, so Laurel, thanks for the presentation, and we certainly feel your pain as a fellow transit agency. I just wanted to offer BAT's sort of official viewpoint on both the ferry nighttime and weekend commuter rail cuts. And these are potential cuts. And the comments are based on studies done previously by MassDOT, which I thought were excellent. First, looking at commuter rail transformation last year, and how even though the Brockton area has sufficient demand to support increased, or pre-COVID had sufficient demand to support increased service, the geographical sort of bottleneck at Neponset, the Neponset area, that limits highway capacity, rail capacity, subway capacity, pedestrian biking capacity, that has ripple effects back through our service area. Leading me to the other MassDOT study on congestion, which showed that really, you know, the congestion has gotten so bad here that it's not only about 93 and routes 93 and Route 24 anymore. It's also about Route 27 from Whitman through Brockton and the other arterials off of 24. And that congestion, of course, has a direct impact on our service area in terms of both, you know, health, quality of life, but also in terms of our ability to maintain on-time performance for the bus system. And so, you know, given that already with even more commuter rail service, Route 27 and routes 24 were so congested. I think any cut will really have a negative impact and hurt our ability to run local bus service. In terms of the ferry, that is one of the solutions that avoids the bottleneck. And so any service that can be provided from the South Shore to Boston has a positive ripple effect toward us by removing stress on that bottleneck. And so for that reason, along with the blow to transit-oriented development in terms of residential development that the ferry cut would have, we offer our concerns about those cuts.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have any comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Dottie Fulgenetti would like to speak.
Okay.
Hello. I just wanted to mention that I'm also on the MBTA advisory board. And one of the things that we mentioned was there was an idea to establish a return to service commission.
Yeah.
And the board felt that that was something that we really wanted to advocate for. I think it's important when that commission is established that the regional planning agencies and the regional transit agencies have a seat at the table for that. They were talking about the Boston Chamber of Commerce would have a role. I would say that we would advocate for all of the regional chambers to also have a seat at the table for those conversations. Thank you.
Very good point. Very good point. Yes, I agree. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Dave-
There's
David Cedrone here again, sorry.
No problem.
It's Dave Cedrone, ATD. I had one more question. With the proposed cuts, what was that worth to the T? Do you have a rough idea of what those proposed cuts, how much was it?
Yeah, so the annual run rate is about $128 million, but that does not include what our estimates are for lost fare revenue due to the service cuts. But in terms of the operating cost, annually about 128 million of what we propose. This would be what we proposed. The reason why this number is a little bigger is that if anything that gets implemented in FY21 would then pull in some additional savings.
I see. So the 128 million would be roughly what the MBTA is saving by cutting these services
For a year, yes.
for 1 year. Okay, all right, very good. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, this is Mary Waldron. I just
Yes.
wanted it to be noted that Old Colony Planning Council sent a letter, a great detailed letter with the support of Paul and Charlie and Dottie and our team, raising our concerns, leaving a community like the town of Plymouth without rail service, a population of 59,000, the tourism, all of that are concerns, but the letter has been properly sent in. I was trying to cut and paste it into our chat, but if anybody would like a copy of that letter, you can certainly contact our office.
Thank you, Mary.
And to follow up on that, Mary, it is in the communications packet, so I will be discussing that when we get to that agenda item.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the other concerns I have about cutting the services is because of the COVID-19 and what we're going through, and more people are working from home, and they are closing offices in Boston. And what I'm hearing is there's a lot of people that are leaving the cities and moving to the suburbs, which means if they're still working in Boston and they're moving to the suburbs, they're going to be needing transportation to get back and forth to work. But I'm finding and I'm hearing that a lot of companies are downsizing their offices in Boston or in other areas, and people are working from home. And because of the situation that we're in, and if it seems to work and they can get the job done, that might be the new norm, which ends up cutting services or limiting the amount of services that we may need. It's just something that, that is a possibility that could happen. Just my thoughts only on that. That's something that we talked about at our last MBTA advisory board meeting. So.
Yeah, we are, that is something we're taking into account. And one of the ways that we're doing that is we have a employer survey. So we survey our riders every month. But we have a employer survey that we started to try to get information about how employers are making decisions about when they're bringing workforce back, but also any decisions around moving locations as
Right,
well, to
yeah.
try to factor that into our planning.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions for Laurel?
Dan, I
Seeing
had a
none?
question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
Sure, thank you, Dan. So we had a question with regard to, I know you're looking at service changes and or reductions with regard to fixed route bus and commuter rail, et cetera, but have you determined ridership reduction calculations for the paratransit audience and the effect on that clientele?
So the impact on the paratransit would be any place where we reduce the fixed route bus service from within 3/4 of a mile. So the proposals would reduce our ADA service area. We're projecting that about 1.1% of pre-COVID ride trips would be impacted by that. And we're not proposing to eliminate the premium service area. We're just, what would happen is those trips would then fall in the premium fare area as opposed to the ADA fares. And then the other two changes on the ride we're proposing is a change to the scheduling window from 30 minutes to 40 minutes. And then the span of service on the ride will change slightly based on the hours of operation changing for the fixed route.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Anyone else?
Actually, I had another question, if that's all right.
Okay.
Going back to the Plymouth. So talk about potentially eliminating that stop. So would that train set then be diverted into Kingston instead, where it branches into the Y, or would that train set not run at all from the South Shore to ultimately South Station?
To Kingston, the idea is to try to make operational savings to make the run, more efficient with that proposal. So there would still be service to the Kingston station.
Yeah. The parking is a little bit better there too.
Yeah, well, one of the things we've identified with the Plymouth one is it doesn't have peak period service. So that might be one of the reasons for the low ridership, and we've been, seeking peak period service to Plymouth. So if you had a workforce commuter trip, they could actually do it in the peak periods, because I think it's more mid, 10 to 2 service window to Plymouth. So hence perhaps some of the low ridership.
Okay. Any further questions for Laurel?
Well, I appreciate everyone's feedback. I know this is not what any of us want to be doing right now. We are collecting all the feedback and trying to figure out what is the best way to proceed with given that. And as I mentioned before, I'm just going to pull up here our website, mbta.com/forging ahead is where there's information about all the proposals and an online comment form. Anyone has any other comments they want to share with us.
Okay, I want to thank you very much for your presentation and hoping that things will get better. Thank you.
I also hope so. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Go right ahead.
What's your position with the MBTA? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have introduced myself. I'm the Assistant General Manager for Policy.
Assistant General Manager of Policy. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All set?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next we're going to go to 7B, Transit Matters. Jared, you have a presentation?
Yeah. So I'll be doing the presentation for that. Jared, our director, is a bit up in the air right now. So my name's. Let me just share my screen. Give me a second here. I'm Matthew Peterson. I'm a campaign lead for Transit Matters, so I work kind of coordinating our volunteer activities.
And just while Matt's doing that, I'm Ethan Finland. I'm another Transit Matters campaign lead.
So can you see the presentation?
Here.
Sorry. Great. Can you see the presentation now?
Not yet. Here we go.
Working? Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, we're Transit Matters, and so we want to just kind of, we were invited here by Charlie Kilmer and Mary Waldron and some of the other folks at OCPC to kind of introduce ourselves and kind of what we do. We are a, just want to kind of introduce ourselves, kind of say like kind of opportunities we see for mobility on the South Shore, and then, you know, just kind of open up some time for people to ask us questions. This is kind of our mission. I mean, we will be distributing these slides afterwards, so you can have all these later, but just kind of to say that our mission is to kind of improve and integrate transit around the region, around New England, by offering new perspectives, uniting different groups of transit advocates, and informing the public. We try to bring a high level of technical expertise to our analysis, as well as a focus on equity and riders, to ensure that we kind of are able to use, kind of be data driven, but be people focused on kind of making a better system for everyone. So we have a variety of initiatives, some of which you may have heard of already. We've had a lot of work on regional rail, which Ethan is going to talk to you later about, which is about transforming our existing rail system to better serve the Commonwealth. We have a campaign focused on mobility hubs. That's what I actually work on, which is about improving and upgrading kind of the places of transit, the stations, the interchanges, the hubs, the places that people shift from one mode to the other, where, you know, where they park and get on a train, where they get off a bus and get on their bike, where they, you know, walk up and look at a map and find out how to get where they're going. We have a bus initiative that's focused on improving, currently focused on the MBTA bus network, but overall focused on pushing for, you know, better service, as well as pushing for a fast and efficient zero emissions fleet to meet both climate and service goals. And finally, we're kind of building up a campaign to focus on fare integration and fare fares. So making fares more integrated across modes, as well as making sure that they're easier to pay and more accessible for people to use. So we've had a few successes with that. You know, we cooperated with the MBTA on a night bus service pilot, working with them to develop routes and schedules. And after that pilot, several of those routes were made permanent. We managed to kind of introduce a lot of ideas into the conversation around regional rail, and we feel proud to have contributed to kind of the discussion that led to the MBTA board committing to expanded and improved rail service across the system. And more recently, we worked with the city of Everett and ITDP to implement some mobility hub improvements along a BRT corridor in Everett that they were implementing there. And in that part, we provided design, implementation, and outreach support to community groups. So our focus for Brockton and the South Shore more generally is that we really want to enhance regional connectivity through frequent rail service, better bus service, and key infrastructure improvements. We want to improve air quality and kind of address climate goals, and also just improve access to mobility so that there's nobody who's kind of left out of the mobility system on the South Shore. Ethan can talk here a little bit about our regional rail campaign.
So thanks, Matt. So when we talk about regional rail, what we mean is taking the existing commuter rail system where, you know, 90% of the infrastructure to do this is already there. So taking the tracks and other infrastructure that we have that provides right now a very peaky 9 to 5 into the city in the morning, out in the evening, and very, very minimal midday, night, and weekend service, and making it more of an all-day transit option. And we accomplish that through these 5 key elements: system-wide electrification and buying high-performance modern electric trains, which makes the system far more reliable because these trains break down far less, faster, certainly, and eliminate local pollution. Building high platforms throughout the system to provide universal access. It's much faster if someone has a mobility constraint and much more comfortable. And it makes boarding faster for everyone because you don't have to climb stairs. And this is already the case on all 3 of the South Shore commuter rail lines. So you're a lot of the way there. Strategic double tracking of what we call bottlenecks, where you have long single track sections that really constrain how many trains you can run. I think Mr. Lambert mentioned earlier the bottleneck through Dorchester and Quincy is a really significant example that limits how frequently the trains can run. Right now at rush hour, I think it's each line only gets 3 to 4 trains per peak period, or at least pre-COVID, whereas most lines have 2 an hour during that time. Frequent all-day service, so at least every half hour in the further out suburbs and at least every 15 minutes within Boston, Cambridge, Quincy, and some of the other inner suburbs. And lastly, free transfers to subways and buses, both the MBTA and RTA services, and fare equalization with local transit, and just cheaper fares overall with a smoother fare system and means tested discounts for low-income riders. And you're already actually seeing somewhat of a shift to more of a regional rail type model now, in light of the shelter-in-place order and the major drop in commuter rail ridership. I think at one point it was down. Estimates vary. It was down anywhere from 5 to 1% of past ridership because it was so reliant on those white-collar suburban jobs where pretty much everyone was working from home. So you look at the chart of service that you had on prior to November 2nd when they did the schedule change, where you had a lot of trips in that 6 to 9 period and fewer in the middle of the day. Now you have a much tighter, more even schedule of every hour, just about on the Middleborough Lakeville. Unfortunately, the one problem that has persisted is the fares are still so high. So a lot of people working sort of service industry jobs in Boston or Quincy or Braintree can't really afford to take the commuter rail. So they're priced out of the system. So that's why we're really excited about the pilot that BAT's doing with the MBTA to improve those fares. And we believe that making that pilot permanent will increase opportunities both for the MBTA and for RTAs like BAT to provide even more service and serve more people than they do now. And that's something we see as a model that could be applied to the rest of the system as well.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
Sorry, I just going to finish this out.
Okay.
Sorry, we'll make sure to go quickly. But yeah, so I guess mobility hubs, like we said, they're mainly about improving access to transit. The BAT Center is a good example, but we think there's opportunities across the region in places like Crawford Square and Randolph. That's a bit outside your region, I guess, but places like Montello Station or anywhere basically you have a town center full of destinations and trip generators that is also served by transit. It can benefit from having more information to improve trip planning so that people can make informed decisions about mobility. Then beyond that, we kind of have as our kind of big vision, a vision for regional transit connectivity. And this is kind of, this is not a specific plan, but it's just, we believe that the South Shore would really benefit from a more comprehensive plan, a comprehensive system to regionally connect it, which enables not just Boston commutes, but also inter-regional travel, right? It's people getting to South Shore Hospital, it's people moving east and west, not just north and south to Boston. And we believe that, all the RTAs across the South Shore and the South Coast, BAT, GATRA, SRTA, are all well positioned to coordinate service and connect the region. And we think that this fits in really well with, the push by a lot of municipalities to concentrate development at transit hubs, which allows you to have the benefits of economic development without necessarily contributing as much to congestion. And these regional transit connections then enable all the people who do then maybe move into those new developments or come to shop or work at those, make all the other essential trips they have to make throughout the day. So in terms of how Transit Matters can work with you, whether you be an agency or municipality or anything else, we really want to develop kind of collaborative relationships with RTAs, MPOs, municipalities. We have a lot of people who are in our volunteer group who are have a lot of technical experience, have a lot of in-depth know-how, and we're able to like help develop innovative ideas and kind of help you go through processes and kind of think a bit outside the box. We're also able to facilitate conversations with external shareholders and build support among the community, as well as just overall build support among local elected officials, as well as local community groups in terms of building a broad-based support for transit and mobility throughout your region. So again, we're data-driven, people-focused, and thank you for giving us the time to talk to you. And if you have any questions, information is here.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Does anybody have any questions for him on the issues?
Dan?
Yes?
Dan, hi, this is Bruce Hughes again, alternate from Abington. Plymouth and Brockton, I'm just thinking of that. They're down to nothing, you know, right now. And, you know, Win Sargent and his partners have bought that place. And with the drop in commuter, you know, into Boston on that bus line. Now, you know, I've always said that the coordination between the RTAs would be like reestablishing the connections back in the old days with all the streetcar services that used to be interconnected within the towns. But, you know, Plymouth and Brockton has always been a significant player down this area as far as transit. And I know we've had participation in the past on this committee from the former owners of Plymouth and Brockton. I guess that would be my question, Ethan. How would you tie that into this proposal?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that really it's, if you think about it, there's a lot of money being spent by a lot of different parties on mobility in the region, right? You know, you've got all the RTAs, the MPOs, the towns, Plymouth and Brockton. And I think what is really important is to make sure that all of those dollars are being coordinated, right? You know, it's not so much about, oh, we need more funding here, we need more funding here, we can't do it, we need the legislature to come through, like, right? We do need the legislature to step up and provide support for things like this. But I think there's also synergies to be made just by coordinating existing activities, existing resources, and making sure that users have the information to know how to get around using these different services. There's a lot of places around the world that do this, where you have multiple transit agencies or different private or public working together to provide regional mobility. And I think there's opportunities here as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Anyone else?
Well, I had my hand raised.
Yep, Rob.
Okay.
Hi, guys. And thank you for being here this morning. I had been involved with the regional rail discussion and with the Commuter Rail Communities Coalition for the last couple of years. And as I attend these meetings and I look around, there is no one other than myself who is representing a community south of Boston. And I think when you look at the regional rail recommendations that came out, Metro West was certainly well represented, and the regional rail plan shows a lot of work going on in Metro West. Lynn was very involved in the Commuter Rail Community Coalition, and we see a lot of priorities for Lynn. The Route 3 corridor is also involved, and you see, you know, activities going on up there. And I heard somebody say the other day that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. When you look at these meetings, you see the regional chambers involved. You see elected politicians there, city managers, mayors, and there's nobody in the South. And if we're not there, and if we don't bring the right guns to the table, we are not going to get our share of what we need to advance. Brockton is hanging its hat on being a transit-oriented development for both housing and for workforce. And if we don't have someone advocating for improved times on the Middleborough line, and I, as an aside, when the proposals all came out, you know, it was like, hey, we're going to look at, 30-minute, 15-minute service eventually, except Old Colony. And when we look at connecting North Station and South Station, there's, oh, look what it's going to do for the west side, the western suburbs, northern suburbs, What happens to Old Colony? We get left out. That's because nobody is there that they respect. So obviously they don't respect me, but we need to have our politicians, you go to this meeting and there's representatives from Seth Moulton's office, always there. Where the hell is David Lynch or Congressman Lynch? Whatever the hell his first name is, sorry. Where are the mayors? Where are the managers? Where are the elected officials? Where's our Beacon Hill delegation? We need to be involved. And I'm hoping that this interaction with Transit Matters and OCPC could lead to a group of leaders to really pick this up and run with it. And that's kind of why I tried to introduce them. I'm working with Tracy Corley at Mass Inc., who is on Transit Matters board. We're discussing putting together a phone tree or a weekly or a monthly conversation to keep these transit communities involved. And so I'm hoping that we'll pick this up and run with it. Sorry, I've said that twice, but thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Rob. Anyone else have any comments? Seeing none,
Dan,
Matthew.
Oh, this is
It's Mary Waldron. Just if I could just follow up on Rob, because I don't think that it's, I don't think it's something we just want to just kind of move off from what he had to say. And I think it's pretty important to have that voice. And obviously everybody has a lot of things on their plate. But, internally, we've just talked about some of the discrepancies, if you will, or those populations that have had some, continued need to have the access to those jobs and education and whatever else it takes. So Rob, what you're saying has not fallen on deaf ears. I just think that it really requires some organization and some convening. And certainly if Tracy Corley and others are willing to do that, we can absolutely have our staff be involved.
I appreciate that, Mary.
That it?
But it also takes us going back to our bosses, our elected officials, and making sure that they participate because this is important to us.
Yeah, and I'll just say, sorry, this is Jared. Want to thank my team for their presentation, but yes, thank you, Rob and Mary. And yeah, like I said, I think ultimately we just want to make sure that we're a resource, to all of you. Like I said, whether you're a transit agency, a planning council, municipality, chamber, that we really want to be here to help and to listen and figure out, what are the unique challenges there. But yeah, but like I said, just wanted to raise that. And also, again, just a +1 for what Rob is saying. And there are some real challenges, coming up ahead that the T is just not, just really not sort of paying attention to. One of them is, an impending, crisis with South Coast Rail, and the fact that you're going to have a lot more service competing on that narrow bottleneck section. And so, making sure that Old Colony folks are at the table is going to be really, really important. And yeah, and fighting for weekend service. One of the things that that Laurel neglected to mention was that even though, yes, the relative number of folks riding on the weekend is pretty small, weekend ridership is actually retained. With the weekend service is actually retained its ridership at about 4 times the rate of weekday service. So, like I said, again, I just can't stress the importance of what Rob said enough of really making sure, that South Shore folks are at the table. So, yeah, thanks. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Dan, could I just address Mary just for a moment?
Oh, hi, Noreen.
Yeah, sorry I'm so late, but everything went well. I just wanted to mention, Mary, that if you could send something out to all of us about this committee, maybe we could, pass it on to our elected officials or email them ourselves, just to get the information out there. And I know exactly what Rob May is referring to. you know, we don't want to be in the forgotten one, because we have such a great RPA and such a strong RPA that the more information we have, then we can either participate or pass it on to our elected officials.
Right. Nope, we can definitely do that, and I'll work with Charlie on that. So thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Noreen, you want to take over?
No, I don't. You're doing a fantastic job.
I knew you'd say that. Okay, let's go. Let's go on to item 2, which was public comment. Does anybody have any public comments? Hearing none. I need a motion for the minutes of November 5th, 2020 meeting. Have you all had a chance to read them? If you have, do we have a motion to accept the minutes of November 5th, 2020?
Rob May, so moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Okay,
Noreen O'Toole.
all right. Any further discussion? Charlie, roll call.
Yeah, normally we just do this by voice vote.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, abstain? Hearing none? Thank you very much. Item 3, communications. A, Brockton Area Regional Transit Authority. Glenn? You there?
We're on communications.
Oh, yep.
Oh, excuse me, communication. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. There are multiple items in the communications packet for this month. The first item is the shared winter streets and spaces from MassDOT, which will be focusing on supporting communities during the next several months when the need for physical distancing has increased challenges because of the cold and the potential snow. The types of eligible projects include Main Streets, which pertains to investments in local downtowns and villages for repurposing streets, sidewalks. The grant limit is maxed at $300,000. Another project is Reimagine Streets, which helps create safe spaces for people to walk and ride their bicycles. And the grant limit for that as well is also maxed at $300,000. And then 3 more projects that are eligible: Better Buses, which can be used to establish new facilities for public buses, which can include dedicated bus lanes as well as shelters with the grant limit of $500,000. Shared mobility projects, which can support capital costs of equipment for new bike share and micro mobility programs with a grant maximum of $200,000. And lastly, Making Pilots Permanent, which will pertain of conversion of temporary shared streets and spaces to permanent with a grant limit of $300,000 as well. Applications will be accepted on a rolling basis, and there will be 4 rounds of decisions for the grant awards. Next, we have the local rapid recovery planning assistance to revitalize downtowns. Every Massachusetts town and city is eligible to apply. The short application form is due December 18th, so 2 weeks from tomorrow. This program provides technical assistance by consultant teams. There is no direct funding available through this program. Applicants will be matched with consultant teams. There is a total of $9.5 million in technical assistance available, and any projects that are awarded must be completed by June 30th. And the link to the application is on this page as well. And there's also a webinar being held next Wednesday, December 9th at 1:30 p.m.
That it? Thank you very much. Any questions?
No, we still have more.
Okay.
The next one is the Federal Highway and the NHTSA announcing the first ever US DOT Pedestrian Safety Action Plan. On November 23rd, the Federal Highway Administration and National Highway Traffic Safety Administration announced the first ever US DOT Pedestrian Safety Action Plan, which will be addressing pedestrian safety through multiple aspects, including improved mobility options, land use planning, and data and evaluation. If you would like to learn anything more, there's the link to their website on this page.
Thank you.
And next is the Mass Trails 2021 grant round. It is now open to apply. The deadline is Monday, February 1st. You can apply for grants for design, project development, engineering, and construction of recreational trails, shared use pathways, and even amenities that support trails. And if you would like to learn any more about it, there is a link to the website on this page as well. And lastly, I believe this is the last item, as it has been spoken about and as Paul put in the chat. This is a copy of the Old Colony comment letter to the MBTA for their Forging Ahead project, just stating everything that we've stated already, just expressing our opinions and desire to keep, to not lower or eliminate service where it is being proposed, and try to keep access where it is needed.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, let's move on to 5 reports. A, Brockton Area Transit Authority. Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to yield my time this morning to our administrator, Michael Lambert.
Okay.
I graciously accept your yielded time. Thank you. Yeah, so first and most important in terms of our COVID response, our workforce is generally speaking happy and healthy at the moment. We're doing everything we can in our power, as you've heard previously, to keep that going. We, along with the MBTA and other transit agencies across the Commonwealth, have seen a recent decrease in ridership associated with the spike in positive cases across the region. That drop has been about 5 or 10%, which, obviously we don't like to see the spike or the drop in ridership, but it does help us reach our goal of limiting capacity on buses to about 50%. One area in which we have exceeded that is our route to Ashmont. And as you heard from the Transit Matters presentation, we have an interesting new project going on with the T that started on Tuesday and has a genesis from the T's initial efforts to move people off of crowded bus lines like the 111 in Chelsea and onto the commuter rail. And so sort of in that same spirit, we approached the T and suggested a reduction in fare from the 3 Brockton train stations to JFK and South Station as an incentive to take advantage of some of the commuter rail's extra capacity and relieve some of the pressure on our Ashmont bus, which was exceeding its 50% target. The T has been an excellent partner in this effort, along with MassDOT. The program is open to Brockton residents with proof of residency and will run for 6 months. And customers can take advantage of a Zone 1A fare, which is $2.40. And the Zone 1A has the initial advantage of the fare media can be purchased at any Charlie card machine in Boston. Participants in the program, again, they apply through us, fill out a survey, and then if they have a smartphone, use their smartphone to show their membership in the program. And that has an added advantage of both convenience and provides data to us and to the T as to how often the program is being taken advantage of. And then once they show that pass to the conductor, they are eligible for the $2.40 trip.
Thank you, Michael. Was there a question for Michael that I see come up on the board from Sean Bailey?
There was a question asking about whether or not this program to ride commuter rail as a Brockton resident is also extended to Brockton employees.
As of now, it's just Brockton residents.
Any further questions for Michael? Seeing none, thank you very, oh, Mary, yes?
Nope, there was just a question in the chat. I just wanted to make sure people saw that the question that Deb had asked was whether about the slides. Paul responded that there is the recording, but in addition to that, Charlie informed me that these staff reports for the JTC and MPO are on OCPC's website in the calendar section next to the agenda and minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
next on our agenda,
that show up
under
in the,
reports,
tip amendments as well.
please. Is Greater Attleboro Taunton Regional Transit Authority. Paul, that's you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just bringing you some information from our other transit authority in our region. Not much new information from GATRA. They are operating their GO service, which is the on-demand transit service in the Plymouth area. So that's been a pretty big hit, but obviously ridership is low because of the pandemic. Due to rising case numbers, they've had to close their customer service window and customer facing services just due to the risk of infection and stuff like that. And they're stepping up mandated enforcement of the mask policy on their buses. But overall, things are going on. And there's talk about, which way the MBTA will be going with service cuts and the potential impact that might have to the riding public in the Plymouth area. But it's to be seen because the T hasn't made any concrete decisions about whether or not they'll be closing like Plymouth Station and so forth.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Anybody have any questions on that issue? Seeing none, South Coast Rail, Paul, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. South Coast Rail is moving along. A lot of the construction is going far south of us in the South Coast in the towns of New Bedford and Fall River, where they're doing construction and culvert replacements. So much of the stuff that's going on for the rail line is much further south of us, and not affecting us quite yet.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Next on the agenda is our 2021 to 2025 TIP improvement program. Charlie, you're up.
Great. Thank you, acting chair. So on the screen highlighted in yellow is something that made me actually really happy last month regard to the TIP, and that was the fact that MassDOT did indeed advertise the Easton Route 123 Depot Street project for construction bids in the first quarter of the federal fiscal year of 2021, and it's approximately $10.5 million, and bids are scheduled to be open on December 22nd. So, as somebody that works with the communities and on the TIP, we're always very happy to see projects come to the finish line of the design, permitting, right-of-way process, and actually be advertised by MassDOT. So, this is a early success story for federal fiscal year 2021. So I'm very happy about that. But in lieu of time, that's the major update that we had. We did have a offline meeting by and between Deb Petty from Hanson and the folks from Environmental Partners to have a coordination meeting on the Hanson Route 14 project. And the designer is going to follow up with MassDOT with some questions as to the design cost. But I just wanted to thank Deb Petty for the question at our last meeting and participating in the follow-up coordination meeting. That's what we had for an update. But if folks have any questions, we'd certainly be able to entertain those at this point.
Thank you, Charlie. Anybody have any questions for Charlie on it? Seeing none. Next, jump down to 7C is the 2021-2025 TIP improvement program. The appendant 1, review and potential approval. And this, Charlie, you're up again, and I believe this will be an action item.
Yes, sir. So full disclosure in advance, when we were formulating the agenda, we didn't plan to have a lot of transit per se, but it just happened to work out that way because Transit's one of our favorite topics, and this is a amendment happens to deal with transit. So all of the new business on this agenda actually involve transit. So we believe this is a good amendment. The MPO had reviewed this at their November meeting and released it for a 21-day public review and comment period. And in summary, there are two projects for the Brockton area transit. The first is to buy 4 40-foot replacement buses, and the total cost for that is $2.25 million. And the state share for that is $450,000. And what they're proposing to do is use carryover funds on the federal side. And the second project is to add and acquire miscellaneous support equipment. And this is involved with the purchase of automatic vehicle locators and automated passenger counters. And the total cost for this project is $490,000. Staff has reviewed this as well and recommends JTC review and approval, and we'll report back to the MPO with the JTC's action. But we're certainly available to answer any questions that you might have on this.
Okay, anybody have any questions of Charlie on this issue? Seeing none, so we need a vote for this, right, Charlie?
Yep, yeah, just a voice
All
vote.
right, do I have a motion to approve the review?
I approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second. That's Dave Field.
Okay, any further discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstain? Seeing none? Item passes. Next up is 8, old business, community local technical assistance study. Bill?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. So we're wrapping up our LTA program for the calendar year. We have a few projects that we've completed recently. So we completed a heavy commercial vehicle exclusion assistance request for the town of Abington. There was previously traffic counts, and then town wanted to proceed with requesting a HCVE zone for that roadway, so we helped them out with that. So that's completed. Town of Avon, we did a traffic study for West Main Street, South Street, and School Street. Gave them some temporary, not temporary, but short-term improvements that they can make to improve safety in the immediate near future. And we'll be working with the town to do a road safety audit at that location as well. The city of Brockton, we did a traffic signal warrant analysis for Warren Avenue at Market Street. So we sent them the data and the results of the warrant analysis. And this will also be a future road safety audit. I don't know if you can bring up the next page and then town of Easton, we did traffic counts for Union Street and Washington Street. So that's been completed and sent to the town. Then in Plymouth, we did a traffic study of Clark Road at Beaver Dam Road, looking at that corridor basically from Route 3 by the Pine Hills eastward out to Beaver Dam Road. So we looked at several spots along that roadway, looked at traffic volumes and speeds and crash pattern over the last 10 years. And we've submitted that data and analysis to the town. And then finally, we do have one remaining LTA project that we're working on in Avon, doing a traffic study for Route 28 at East and West Spring Street and also Harrison Boulevard. We have a little bit of data collection left to do on that, and that'll be completed before Christmas. And so that's an update on the LTA program. If anyone has any questions, you can ask me now, or you can always shoot me an email or anything later on.
All right, thank you very much, Bill. Does anybody have any questions of him? Seeing none, let's continue on B, staff review on ENFs, EIRs, and NPCs. Kyle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have one new ENF this month. It's for the town of Whitman. They have a 20-inch force main replacement going on there. That's going to be done in 4 phases. The first phase consists of the installation and testing of the replacement sewer force main, and that's going to be approximately 16,000 linear feet of new force main. Phase 2 consists of the installation of a bypass system. Phase 3. Sorry about that. Phase 3 consists of the commissioning of the replacement force main upon completion of a permanent tie-in connection. And then the final phase includes the heavy cleaning and a CCTV inspection of the existing main. And this will be completed within 12 months with a winter spring 2021 bid date and a project final completion date of June 2022. Next, we have a notice of project change. That's for the Pine Hills project in Plymouth. The proponent is seeking a MEPA review for the 7th and final phase of development, along with the addition of 1.8 acres of land to the project site. And phase 7 includes the review of the remaining 500,000 square feet of commercial building planned for the Pine Hills Village Green area, including multifamily for rent and general commercial office uses. And finally, we have 4 certificates. The first one is for the proposed Duxbury Beach nature-based storm damage protection project that's in Duxbury. And the certificate states that this does require an EIR. Next is the Sylvia Pond Estates project in Kingston. The certificate states that this project does not require an EIR. Next is the Park Street Sewer Expansion project in Stoughton. The certificate states that the project does not require an EIR. And then the final certificate is the town of Marshfield and Duxbury Beach and Dune Nourishment. And this certificate states that the project does require an EIR. And that completes the certificates, ENFs, and NPC for this report.
Thank you very much, Kyle. Just to update on the Whitman project, at my last selectmen's meeting, my board voted to lower the quorum of a special town meeting to 25. We're waiting for approval from the state to allow that. Then once that we allowed, we will hold a special town meeting to get the approval to go out and borrow money for that water main project, that sewer project. So that will be coming hopefully in the next, I want to say at the end of January. I'd like to have that town meeting. And we'll see, and we'll see, and that way the project can go forward. Because that's an issue that needs to be taken care of for our town. That's the original sewer pipe that goes to the Brockton line, and it needs, and it needs some work. It's getting old. So just wanted to update you on that. Anybody else have any questions of Kyle? Seeing none. Next on is regional concerns of local communities and transportation issues. Does anybody have any? Hearing none? I guess, what? Yes, Charlie.
So not so much a concern, but I'm not sure if Mary's still on the line here, but I'd just like to recognize Mary Waldron, who is celebrating 1 year and 1 day as Executive Director of OCPC. It's like to reflect, it's been a wonderful year. Mary's brought a lot of energy, enthusiasm, professional development opportunities, public participation to the council and its region, and just like to thank her for all that she's done. And we certainly look forward to the next year. And we like to joke here that you've done 1 year and you only got 19 to go. So.
Charlie, you took the words right out of my mouth. That was my next step.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for for making that statement. I think she's done a great job in her first year, and I look forward to more years of her running Old Colony Planning Council. She's doing a great job. It was a great selection that we made in having her take the place of retiring Pat Cimarella and hiring Mary to do the job that she's doing, and she's just doing one great job. I want to thank her for that.
Thank you,
So,
Mary.
you want to take a bow, Mary?
Yeah.
Could I also add, Dan, that, you know, taking over at this time, this had to be the toughest year that anyone could ever take over any job, especially running an RPA.
Yeah.
And lots of applause for a fabulous job and remaining calm and just doing it for all of us. And we thank you, Mary, for your leadership.
Yes, thank you, Mary.
Okay. All right, seeing none, I guess that exhausts our agenda. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
No discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're done. Thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, for your year. Charlie, great job.